Hi, I'm Dave Selinger. I'm the CEO of Deep Sentinel. And every week, we typically release a video that shows the crimes that we stop. And this morning, right before we were about to push send on that, one of our employees stood up and said, "Hey, I'd like us to do something different today." So I'm going to introduce you to Ali Seha. She was our first employee when Winston and I started the company. She's been with us for about 4 years, and I wanted to say thank you to her for having the guts to ask us to do something different and give her the stage.
Hi, I'm Ali. I am the customer care manager here at Deep Sentinel. And my conversation earlier with Sally was that I didn't know if I really felt comfortable posting something that was not related to what's happening in the United States. That being the Black Lives Matter movement, what's happened to George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery, and a lot of more other people in between. Again, I just didn't feel it was appropriate for us to post something and be that company that just ignored the big elephant in the room.
Thank you for doing that. And also as a company that interacts with all Americans of all colors and interacts directly with police departments, while we don't have a role to play in the protests and in the violence necessarily directly, we sit right in the middle. And you were really poignant in pointing out that we should say something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've just seen like a lot of companies like Target, Starbucks, Nordstrom, Bath and Body Works, for example. They've just said something, and I just feel like not saying anything is kind of like adding to the problem. And again, it's such a big issue that I just felt like we should say
The
something.
chief in Minneapolis said the same thing. He said silence is compliance.
Mm-hmm. And also because what we do here at Deep Sentinel, we do partner up with law enforcement officers in order to achieve our goals of like crime prevention, being like the fast response. And I think a lot of Americans have that mistrust with local law enforcement departments. So I just wanted to open up this conversation, this dialogue with Deep Sentinel and you as the CEO and the voice of our company.
Mm-hmm. And is there something specific that you think that the employees or that I should hear or that our customers should hear that you want to ask of myself or us? Or
that's I think part of like where I started that dialogue with you, right? Where do we stand? I mean, a lot of the employees are minorities. I know that what's happening is very important to me as a person of color, as a minority, and so just wanted seeing, like, again, what do we say?
Mm-hmm.
How do we respond?
Okay. Do you mind if I ask you first, not why it's important to you, because I think that's a tone deaf question, but how do you, what of this is important for you? What's the most important aspect to you? What are the feelings that you need me and us and everyone to be cognizant and aware of as it relates to, you know, whether it's the specific action in the specific time or in general, that you feel like, gosh, you know, Dave, you grew up as a Chinese Jew kid in in a little town in Oregon. You're just never going to understand this, and I need you to hear this. I need you to understand this. I want you to give me a soapbox for 30 seconds to tell my story that I don't think that most Americans get a chance to really hear.
I think number one is just acknowledging that there is a problem. There is an issue. There is a lot of social injustices. It's in our prison system. It's with racial profiling. It's with social economics. I mean, it's such a huge issue. But I think just acknowledging that there is a problem.
That the United States has a problem. We have a problem. I have a problem.
We all have a
with
problem.
racism.
There is a problem. There is a problem.
Yep. I think that's the first step, right? And I think anyone that says otherwise can certainly convince themselves, right? Like you can rationalize your way to saying like, I'm not racist. You can rationalize your way to saying we're not racist. And you can certainly rationalize your way to saying our systems are not racist, but those things aren't true. And so I think, me as a person, I can say that we as a company, we do everything we can, as you know, right? Like you've worked here, you've worked with me. We do what we can, right? And I can talk about that in a little bit, but what we've done to not only say let's not be overtly racist, but to actually say let's acknowledge that there is a problem of racism in this country, and let's establish education and policies that address the fact that we live in a world where that is systemic.
Pause.
Do you want me to go into that? No, you did do this.
Yeah, let's go into it. I think it'd be important to have, or I don't even think a lot of our employees know that you had a meeting in DC specifically about this thing, right? How do we protect citizens? What measures we've taken so that we don't become part of the problem.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think it's like you said, it's such a complex issue, right? If you look at just today, right? And I've had a hard time watching, the videos that have come out, but I think that I feel that there is some voice behind the pain when I see, for example, the sheriff of Marin came forward and said, I understand that no man is guilty until proven so, but you can't watch this video. You cannot watch it. You cannot watch it and not reach the conclusion that by sitting on a dead man's neck for 3 minutes, that's not murder.
Mm-hmm. It is tough. And I think one of the best quotes that I've seen in the last couple of days was Will Smith when he said, but racism is something that it didn't go away. It's now that we have technology, now that we have cell phones, we're just able to record the things that are happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's just murder, right? And the fact that we have, as a society, not taken the actions, and I know in my life I've not taken the actions that I could have to be more proactive in preventing it. Not participating is certainly important, but that's only one step. When you have a systemic problem, you actually have to take positive steps in the right direction. And I think that was where, when I look at the development of our company, that again, I'm not going to say that we're perfect, because I know for a fact that we're not, but I can say that I'm proud of what we've done, right? And a lot of people don't know this, but about 2.5 years ago, I realized that there is the potential that because of our direct connection with law enforcement, because we're using video, there's the potential for Deep Sentinel to be abused. And so I actually reached out to a friend in the Obama administration, a guy named DJ Patil, and he's a friend of mine. And I said, hey, who's the best person I can work with to try to get in front of this and take proactive steps? And he put me in touch with the deputy head of the Department of Justice, a guy named Roy Austin, a former deputy head of the Department of Justice. And Roy and I worked together for a number of months and actually assembled a group of people and took the time to have a conversation with the ACLU, members of the NAACP, and ask them, instead of waiting for us to get in trouble, ask them, what should we do? Here's what we do. Here's our business. We watch video cameras and we prevent crimes. And our goal is to be colorblind in doing that. And it was amazing having a conversation with them, because I learned probably three key things. The first one is that being colorblind is not enough. You have to be color aware, right? So things like the fact that Black African-American males at the age of 13 will be viewed over a video frequently as being 16 or 18, which is so important because we treat minors differently than we treat adults. And if you treat a 14-year-old African-American male the same way you treat a 20-year-old white male, you have a problem. And you can end up with a very serious negative outcome. And so it's again, it's not just not participating in racism, it's the need to take proactive steps to erase it from systems. The second thing that I learned in talking to them is that it's a charged conversation. It is a very challenging and charged conversation. It happened to be, we had this in DC, we had this event in DC, and there were about 15, 25 people that I met with. And it was the week that Zuckerberg went out to DC and testified before Congress. And they were pissed, right? They were all like up in arms. I came here proactive. I came here of my own accord. And I said, I'm looking for your advice. As far as I know, the only time tech companies have come to DC is when they are called to testify because they've done something wrong. So let's take advantage of this situation, right? You can yell at me if you want to. We can do that, right? You can be mad at Silicon Valley. But please recognize the fact that I'm here to listen to you. And if you just do that, then you're going to miss your opportunity to guide us. And it took about an hour and a half of them yelling at me to get it out. And this lady in the back who'd been quiet the whole time, she stood up and she said, guys, I do not want another one of my Black brothers to be arrested falsely by police. I do not want another Black male to get shot and get it trivialized. But us yelling at this man who's flown out here to get our opinion and is the only person that has ever done this in the history that I'm aware of is not going to get us where we want to. Because I'll tell you something else. I have had my apartment broken into 3 times in the last 2 years, and I do want to call the police because I do want to feel safe in my home. And so we have to find a balance. We have to hear why this company, Deep Sentinel, is doing what they're doing, and take this opportunity, instead of yelling at him, to educate him. What are the policies that he could enact to be a part of the solution instead of a part of the problem? And that was like this seminal moment in the conversation. And again, it's a confidential conversation, so I can't point at any one individual, but I remember that, and I won't attribute it to anybody, but I remember that moment as being the watershed moment in this conversation, where it went from, I hate all tech and all tech is racist, to, you're right, like, here's our chance to do this. And we came out of it with these really good, I think, really good policies that we've then followed up on and enacted. The third thing that I left that with, and I still have today, and as I look at what we're dealing with today, I think about a lot, is that this is a very hard issue. and in a society that tends towards headlines. This is a nuanced, this is an important, this is a statistics based, this is a systemic issue. And all of those words, nuance, systemic, statistic, none of them lend themselves to headlines. None of them lend themselves to 140 character tweets. None of them lend themselves to simple solutions. They require thought, they require in-depth work, they require commitment, they require trade-offs. And an example of one of the policies that we left with was, we talked about how we hire, and we hire for competence. And I was blown away that some of the folks in the room said, that's the worst thing you could say. And I was like, whoa, hold up, right? Like, we look at, what their skills are and what their capabilities are to solve the skill of the job of being a guard at Deep Sentinel. And they said, yeah, but if you hire for skills and you hire in an area that happens to be all white, let's say, for example, and you have no awareness of these issues, then you will, whether intentionally or unintentionally, be part of the problem, because racism exists. And I've debated with them for a long time. I debated with them for quite a bit of time, and ultimately, really was won over to the argument that they made that, again, just being consistent in a system that is already hampered by inherent racism is going to be insufficient. And it doesn't mean, that you have to kind of go all the way over here, all the way over here, but you have to take the time to hear. You have to take the time to hear the nuance and find the right policy. And again, if it's just headlines, if it's just affirmative action or hire based on competency, we will lose. Right? We will 100% lose, because the issue is more complex than that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad that you're bringing this up and that you're talking about it, because I think one of my concerns was, I don't want to be involved with a company that accidentally gets someone of color killed, just because we've heard it in the media and in the news, the headlines, and I was just so scared for that to even be like a possibility with our company. And so you making that visit just gave me reassurance that we are moving in a right direction, a different direction. And it made me feel it made me feel better.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. One of their other concerns was that this would be a product that was only purchased by white people to protect themselves in some racist fashion. And, I think that's something that you and I have tracked together too, that I've been super happy about, is that our customer base is very diverse.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think that by itself is so important to me too, right? That it's not being used, even if you create a tool that in its perfect isolation in a scientific lab is not a racist tool, but if it is used for racist purposes, it is still a part of the problem.
Yeah.
And you can wash your hands of it, but that's not the answer either.
I remember when we first launched our product, we actually had a customer who kind of wanted to have that conversation and gear it towards color. And it was me saying, sir, we do not intervene based on color. We based on behaviors and mannerisms. And he just kept, and I hate to say this, he kept saying, well, he's Black in a white neighborhood. And I just had to kind of come back to, we do not intervene based on color.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, one of the most important things, right? That's this first starting point, right? Is that we look at behavior, but we can't do it again, entirely colorblind, right? Which is the hard thing, right? We have to do a couple things that these folks told me. It was like, make sure that you're tracking who's intervening on different things, to make sure that you don't have a guard as you scale that is kind of hiding in some racist corner of the company. Make sure that you are aware and you're training for racial awareness during the training period. And we have a whole period during the training and onboarding for the guards that is about racial awareness. And then we go back to and now focus on the behavior, focus on suspicious behavior. And it's a hard, nuanced solution, right? Like we could go and have it be all one way or have it all be the other way. But I think that's why we are where we're at in a lot of ways, is that we have a society that reads headlines and that's it. And those headlines, if you want to get clicks, are inflammatory and lose the nuance. And the solution cannot be found there. The solution has to be found in the hard work. Statistics, we had the same problem with COVID, right? So early on, when we saw these statistical analyses, we found and we learned very conclusively that all the way to the highest ranks of the United States of America, people don't understand statistics. And we had a lot of trouble understanding what an exponential curve is. And it took us 2 months to the point where that's the headline of the news every single day. So then people started researching it and learning about that. But exponential curves are pretty complex, right? And I've been studying stats for 25 years. And, I still spent a lot of time trying to understand what was happening. And that was much to our detriment because we were unable to find experts who said something that we didn't want to hear and allow them to really do the research. We instead did these hard swings as a country, right? We have the weird spot in the United States of having the most cases, not having the largest population, not having the most dense population, but having the most cases, having the most deaths, and having the most devastating economic impact from COVID all at once. And I'm not going to say that's the Republicans' fault or the Democrats' fault. I think that's an American problem, right? That is a fact that all Americans have to deal with, that we have brought the COVID problem onto ourselves by being so headline focused and so extremist in our actions. And we have brought this racism problem to the head that we have today by the same means. And that doesn't mean I don't love America. I love America. Right? I think America is the only country that's proven over a long period of time that it has the ability to ingest these points of incredible pain and then direct. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I do have hope that the fact that we do maintain these democratic ideals will allow us to take this moment of intense pain, this moment of intense violence, this moment where we have looters intermixed with righteous protesters, and we have evil police officers intermixed and defended amongst righteous police officers. And I've spent today, if you look at my texts today, on one side, I'm texting the guy that I call my brother from another mother, who is one of our advisors and a police officer to the company. And on the other side, I've got my two best friends since college who are Black. And the police officer's white, by the way. And we're all looking at the same thing saying, where's the solution? There isn't an easy solution, right? But the first step, I think, is acknowledging that there's true righteousness in a lot of people, and we have to choose the actions and the behaviors and then the laws and the policies on top of that that allow and emphasize that righteousness and reduce the evil that we have. And we have systems of evil that protect bad cops.
Right.
And we have systems of evil where we allow looting to occur amongst righteous protesters. We have systems of evil that have told cops to hold up batons to peaceful protesters. And we have systems of righteousness where cops have taken that off and they've marched with people. And we have to find the things that matter and emphasize those.